Hi, beautiful Black Queens. Thank you again for tuning in. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Dani Ellison. I am a narcissistic abuse recovery coach for adult children of narcissists. I help Black women break generational cycles of narcissistic abuse by going no contact with their parents. If that is interesting to you, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any upcoming content. And with that said, I am very excited to talk to you today about reparenting and claiming your inner child. So, yesterday we talked about self orphaning and mourning the loss of your mother. And I mentioned how that's one of the most difficult parts of the transition that we experience when we go no contact with a parent. It's very bleak, very sad. It can be the lowest of the low points that we walk through, but the payoff is that once we self orphan, we are ready to show up emotionally to reparenting. So let's jump into that. So, reparenting is the process that we go through of filling the space of a parent in our own life. So, yesterday I mentioned that just because you have a mom or a dad does not mean that you have a parent in that mom or dad, right? If you were raised by a narcissist, you may have had that figure, you may have had the face, but you did not actually experience having a parent, meaning a responsible, stable, predictable adult who has your best interest at heart and is going to always put that before their own needs. If you are raised by an emotionally immature parent, oftentimes you were the adult and you've been taught um, actively and covertly to second guess your need for a boundary around how you are treated, right? You are taught to um, recognize others' peace, others' comfort, others' priority before your own. It's sort of like you're always waiting for your parent to get around to meeting your need, but that really never takes place. Most of the time, you are gaslighted out of your need even being relevant. Um, and so, reparenting is the work that we do to take over the role of mother in our life, right? When we go no contact, when we actually do the work of letting go of the ideal that we had of a childhood or of a normal relationship with our mom, once we accept that and come to terms, we can start to do the work of making difficult decisions for ourselves. We can start to do the work of speaking our truth and protecting our boundaries, standing up for ourselves and showing up to ensure that we get our needs met, right? Maybe it's just because I was a teacher, but I like to think of, maybe that kindergartner that has a mom who is just on it and she's going to be there every morning dropping them off. She's going to make sure that they got breakfast, the homework's done, they have the clothes that they need for gym, all their needs are met. And if any mention of a problem comes up regarding their child, they're going to be at the school, they're going to be on the phone, right? They're going to be in the meeting, they are on it. You get to be that parent for yourself. um, and so I have some affirmations that I want to share with you that I hope you will do along with me now, but also incorporate into your daily mindful practice. Because the first step to reparenting really is claiming our inner child. So we may not have a relationship with our inner child at this point, right? The chances are your inner child has just kind of been cast off into a corner. She's been waiting to be acknowledged. She's been rebelling and acting out, trying to get your attention, trying to get your parents' attention. And you may notice that when you try to live your best life, like when you try to be healthy and functional and have a social life and, acquire this lifestyle that you see for yourself, she usually will kind of pop up and jack your plans up, interrupt everything you have going. I call it torpedoing your life. She'll just kind of show up and have a tantrum and ruin things for you. And that's her way of saying, hey, you don't get to just move on and be healed and be an adult and leave me back here in your past stuck in this trauma place. You have to come back here and get me. And until you retrieve me, I'm going to be crying. I'm going to scream. I'm going to wail. I'm going to have a tantrum because I'm a kid and that's what I do. Um, and it's coming up now. I didn't plan to speak to you about it, but it's presenting itself. So, a barrier to reparenting that we don't talk about enough, I think, is self loathing. It is very likely that if you were raised by a narcissistic parent, by the time you get around to reparenting, you are inheriting a relationship with an inner child who is unwanted, right? Who has been sent the message over and over again that she is a burden, that she's annoying, that she's too much, that she's just in the way, right? That what she can do to earn approval is to shrink, to be quiet, to disappear, to take care of her own needs so no one else has to tend to her. And now that you effectively get stuck with the responsibility of parenting her, of raising her, you may feel some resistance to that. You know, you don't, well, maybe you do have kids, but you didn't have this kid, right? This is your parents' child. This is not your child. And yet here you are with a child to raise. And so you may, act out a little bit, stall a little bit when it's time to reparent. You might throw yourself into a depressive cycle. You may neglect some self care. You may pick up some bad habits that really aren't even um, organic to where you are right now. It's just your way of acting out. If you do, please don't beat yourself up. It is okay. It's totally a part of the process. You'll come around to accepting the responsibility of reparenting yourself, but it can take some time. So, our affirmations, a great place to start is simply with saying, I have a baby girl. Okay. I have a baby girl. You want to acknowledge that you have an inner child. There's a part of you that exists at your core that is still your younger self, that is still the innocent child you were when you experienced your trauma, when you were experiencing life through fresh eyes. A part of you is still that little girl. And in order to claim her, we just have to acknowledge her. Okay. I have a baby girl. Second, she belongs to me. It might seem self evident, but you want to hear yourself say out loud, not only is she present, not only is she there, and I'm acknowledging her, she is valid, but I'm claiming her. She belongs to me. This is my baby girl. I take her back from my mother, from my father, from my exes, from anybody that I've ever submitted her to, seeking love and affection and approval that I didn't get. I'm going to cancel all those claims and I claim her. Okay. I have a baby girl. She belongs to me. No one is allowed to hurt her on purpose. Okay. Now, that on purpose is very important because your baby girl will get hurt again. It happens. We fall down on the playground of life. She will get hurt again, and that is okay. The goal here is that she never feels pain again. Is that pain is not an intentional attack. That pain is not someone else simply coming along and exacting their will over her because there's no boundary, because there's no layer of protection to prevent that, because you now get to be that layer of protection. So I have a baby girl. She belongs to me. No one is allowed to hurt her on purpose. If you'll just begin to cycle that for yourself out loud, um, you will notice that your baby girl begins to take up her own space, right? A helpful tip that I often give to my clients, um, and that has really helped me, is to speak about your inner child in the third person. It will help you to separate your current adult feelings from her selfish, childish ones that she's totally entitled to. And although you encompass all of that, it will help you to be a little more of an advocate for yourself, for your inner child. If you can say, well, my inner child is really angry about something my mom did or didn't do when I was 9 years old, your adult self might be like, well, my mom was working and raising kids and XYZ. I've learned all these different ways to rationalize for her. So I feel guilty about being angry. But your baby girl is not going to feel guilty about being angry because she's a baby. So she is your emotional barometer for your mental and emotional health. Okay, if baby girl's uncomfortable, if she's not feeling it, if she's angry, if she's sad, that's the move that you need to make emotionally. You need to learn to acknowledge what it is that she's telling you about yourself, and starting right here, claiming her and accepting that responsibility to protect her is where we start when we are reparenting. Okay, you want to work toward having such ownership and concern for your baby girl that you are willing to show up to any fight that involves her. And when I say fight, I don't mean a physical fight. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, anytime her boundaries are threatened, anytime her well being comes under attack, you are the responsible party who shows up and argues her cause. And sometimes that's going to mean that you have to stand up to people that you normally would not. You might be a little bit uncomfortable. You may even have wondered, like, how do people do that? How do they just not give any of it, and they just stand up and tell the person how they feel? How do they just assert their boundary? How do they know when it's time to protect themselves versus when it's time to be docile and just say okay and go along with it? If you were raised by a narcissistic parent, your ability to have perspective in these situations has been compromised. And it will take you some time to learn to see black and white, to learn when it's time to show up and when it's time to back down. But the very first step you take is conditioning yourself to show up to any fight that involves your baby girl. You are her parent. So if the school of life has to call about your baby girl, you're the person who picks up the phone. Hopefully, this has been bite-sized enough that you can wrap your mind around it, begin to practice these affirmations, and emotionally prepare yourself to walk in this work. This is a tall order, so I just wanted to jump into this specific part of the no contact journey, and hopefully you paired watching this video with yesterday's video about self-orphaning. If you're new here, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss upcoming content as I continue to dive deep into the no contact healing journey. If you are a Black woman and you have recently gone no contact or would like support in doing so, you can work with me by going to my website, ellisoninc.com, and booking a session. We'll start off with a trauma assessment during which I will help you identify if you have been abused by a narcissistic parent, help you assess the likeliness that you may have PTSD or CPTSD, and make a recommendation as to whether or not no contact is truly the best next step for you, or if there's some other avenues that might be a better fit. Again, you can book that session at ellisoninc.com. And when you head over, you can subscribe for a free resource called the No Contact Toolkit that will help get you started in the meantime. Bye, Queens.